What's up, guys? Welcome to the line change. And in this video, we're going to be talking about potentially or 8 potential teams that could be interested in trading for Dakota Joshua. Now, obviously, Joshua's name has come up quite a bit as of late as a potential trade target. There's rumors going out there that the Canucks are looking to move Dakota Joshua and move off of that 4-year contract that he signed with the Canucks not even 2 years ago. And we're going to dive into 8 potential teams that could be interested in him. Obviously, the Canucks still have that massive hole down the middle, and they are trying to come up with ways to fill in that hole. And it might come at the expense of guys like Dakota Joshua, Teddy Bluger. But in this particular video, we're going to be focusing on Dakota Joshua and 8 potential teams that could be interested in his services. But before we do that, as we always do, big shout out and thank you to my sponsor, Gassy Jack Art, maker of that incredible artwork you see there behind me. And you guys can check them out yourselves at gassyjackart.com. You can also find him on Instagram at Gassy Jack Art. He still has his end of season sale going on where you can buy 2 prints and get 2 for free. Go ahead, check him out, gassyjackart.com. So let's go ahead and dive into the teams that could be interested in his services. This article is, of course, written by our friends at Canucks Army, and in particular, Tyson Cole. And he goes on to state the Vancouver Canucks have just $795,000 of available cap space remaining, with 13 forwards, 7 defensemen, and 2 goaltenders on the roster. Would they prefer to have another center in the mix who could potentially push Filipino down to 3C? Surely, but with what centers were out there on the free agent market, the Canucks circled back and re-signed Brock Besser. Now looking at the Canucks' depth chart, they are rich on the wings. They have their top 6 wingers figured out with Besser, Jake DeBrusk, Evander Kane, and Connor Garland. But it gets a little crowded with their bottom 6 wingers with Niels Höglander, Drew O'Connor, Kiefer Sherwood, Linus Karlsson, Arshdeep Bains, Jonathan Lekaramaki, and Dakota Joshua, all fighting for 6 spots. Not to mention Max Sasson, Atu Ratu, and Niels Aman, who will also be fighting for a spot on the wing if they can't fit down the middle. Of all the players listed above, only Lekaramaki is waivers exempt, so the Canucks have a strong possibility of losing one, if not more, of these players. Is it likely that happens? No, but it could. To avoid losing out on one of these wingers for nothing, the Canucks could look to trade. In fact, there has already been reports about the Canucks shopping a pair of bottom 6 players, both Teddy Bluger and Dakota Joshua. They're trying to move 2 guys right now, Joshua and Bluger. Rick Dollywall said, can they move one of those 2 guys to free up the cap space to get a centerman now? I really am hearing the Canucks are souring on Dakota Joshua for some odd reason. His name's out there. Joshua earned himself a 4-year, $13 million extension, holding a $3.25 million AAV with the Canucks after a career year. The big winger scored 18 goals and 32 points in 63 games in 2023-2024, but had a down 2024-25 season. It is easy to forgive Joshua for last season after his cancer diagnosis in the offseason, which affected his offseason training and the start of the season. However, it appears he might be a casualty as the Canucks look toward fixing their hole down the middle of the ice. Joshua will have some control if he is moved, however, as he carries a 12-team no-trade clause. But if he is moved, who would be interested in acquiring the Canucks' Joshua? One team comes to mind, the Chicago Blackhawks. The Blackhawks shouldn't be turning around any NHL talent to help fix their roster. With over $22 million in cap space and only 11 NHL forwards on the roster, they have both the cap and roster space to fit in Joshua. Of course, the Blackhawks have young prospects vying to make the team, but Joshua would flirt with top 6 minutes in Chicago if he were moved there. Chicago was one of the teams expected to pursue Joshua last offseason, so we know their management group likes the player. But would Joshua welcome a move to Chicago, considering the team's struggles over the past few years? Next up, we have is the Colorado Avalanche. This would be a tight fit for the Avalanche, but they just scrape by with under 1 million in cap space if they were to add Joshua. Looking at the Avalanche's roster, they are very top heavy with Nathan MacKinnon, Gabriel Landeskog, Marty Necas, Arturi Lehkonen, Brock Nelson, and Valerie Nichushkin occupying their top six. However, Ross Colton and Logan O'Connor, who is currently on the injured reserve list, are the only players on the roster who you could consider top 9 players. Colorado moved on from Miles Wood this offseason, so they lack a lot of toughness out of their bottom 6 and could see Joshua as an asset worth trying to acquire to bolster their Stanley Cup contending lineup. Next up, we have the Detroit Red Wings. A homecoming for Joshua. The dead-born Michigan native would likely welcome a trade back to his home state. Detroit has more of a crowded forward group with youngsters Jonathan Berggren and Elmer Soderblom looking to earn full-time roster spots. The Red Wings signed veteran James Van Riemsdyk this offseason, but acquiring a similar big-bodied player who brings an added physical presence to a bottom 6 that did not have a player with over 100 hits last season would breathe some toughness into Detroit's offense. Next up, we have the Minnesota Wild. There were quite a bit of rumors swirling about which roster player the Canucks offered along with the 15th overall pick to the Minnesota Wild in exchange for Marco Rossi. That never came out, but with the reports of the Canucks shopping Joshua after having soured on him, along with the bigger-bodied profile player that GM Bill Guerin likes to build around, it was easy to speculate Joshua might have been a part of that package. Joshua would fit the mold of a prototypical Guerin-type player that he likes to fill in his bottom 6. The 6'3", 206-pound winger throws his body around and isn't afraid to drop the gloves. Players like Marcus Foligno, Yakov Trenin, and formerly Nikolai Desjardins fit a similar profile to Joshua's, but the Canucks winger would provide more offensive upside. If they don't trade him, the Wild still have Rossi to sign, but with over $10 million of cap space, the Wild could make it work to retain Rossi and fit Joshua in under the salary cap. Next up, we have the Nashville Predators. The Predators are in a world of hurt in their forward core with just over $10 million of available cap space. Nashville has 8 NHL regular forwards under contract, with RFA Luke Evangelista still to sign. That leaves 3 spots open for the Predators to fill, hoping that 3 youngsters, Matthew Wood, I'm probably going to butcher this, Fyodor Svechkov, and Zachary Leroux can make the jump to the NHL. It's unlikely that all 3 will be ready to make the jump, so Joshua could make sense in Nashville. After letting Kiefer Sherwood walk last summer, thank you, Nashville, and trading Jeremy Lauzon this summer, the Predators don't have a whole lot of big hitters on their roster. Joshua could fill the physicality void left on the roster. Next up, we have the San Jose Sharks. The Sharks are similar to the Blackhawks in that they could be looking for more NHL-ready players right now to help the youth grow. Speaking of the youth on the roster, which player on their team right now is going to stick up for their teammates when Macklin Celebrini or Will Smith get roughed up? Barclay Goodrow, Vincent Desharnais, if he's in the lineup. Not only could Joshua stick up for young stars on the team, but he could likely slide into the Sharks' top 6 as an offensive contributor. Outside of Celebrini, Smith, and Eklund, as well as Tyler Toffoli, Joshua would probably slide in as their next best forward, one that would still leave them with over $20 million in cap space if they acquired his $3.25 million. Next up, we have the Utah Mammoth. The Mammoth have been busy this offseason and haven't been afraid to make big moves. Utah has already addressed some of its criticism about being too small by re-signing 6'4" Jack McBain, but also Brandon Tanev, who can provide that physical edge. But do they want more? Lawson Krause is a big body, but doesn't rough it up as much as you'd hope for a 6'4" winger who averages only 24 points per season. His name has been mentioned in trade rumors lately. If he is moved, Joshua could be a more productive replacement, earning less than Krause. Utah's forward group is a little crowded, but we like the fit for Joshua with the Mammoth. Lastly, we have the Winnipeg Jets. Now, the Jets might be our favorite fit for Joshua. Winnipeg still have some work to do with RFA's Gabe Vilardi and Dylan Sandberg still to sign, but with just under $20 million of cap space, the Jets have plenty of money to work with to get them done and add Joshua if they see fit. Joshua won't be a Nikolai Ehlers replacement, but he could be a Brandon Tanev replacement, who they brought in at the trade deadline to beef up their bottom six. Joshua would likely fill in a similar role, sliding in alongside captain Adam Lowry to create a dangerous physical duo in Winnipeg. Let's take a look at an honorable mention. The Toronto Maple Leafs. We wanted to include them as a landing spot, as they were rumored to be one of the teams heavily interested in signing him had he hit free agency. They have the necessary cap, $4.98 million, to take on Joshua's full $3.25 million cap hit. However, they don't really have the roster spot to fit him in. The Maple Leafs have Max Domi, David Kempf, Calle Yarncrook, Scott Lawton, Ryan Reeves, Steven Lorentz, and Michael Pezzetta already in their bottom six, with RFA Nicholas Robertson still to sign, not to mention any of their young prospects who are ready to make the jump. There are rumors that the Leafs are trying to move out some of those players because they just have too many, so we'll circle back on Toronto as a potential Joshua destination once a roster spot clears up for him. So there is that 8, I guess technically 9, potential teams that could be interested in Dakota Joshua. Let me know in the comment section down below, which of these teams do you guys think he would be a good fit? I know a lot of people are big fans of Joshua, myself included. I honestly do not want the Canucks to trade Dakota Joshua, and I too am having a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that the Canucks have soured on Joshua after he had a down year because he was diagnosed with cancer. It truly affected his offseason training, and that's why he did not play as well as he did. He was recovering from that. Not to mention he did get injured during the season as well. They kept him out of action for a while. So I don't really understand this whole soured. I don't get it whatsoever. So obviously, if it were up to me, I'd want us to keep Joshua. As I mentioned, big fan of Joshua, the player. But at the same time, if trading Joshua leads to us getting a second line center, I'm all for it. But if it's not for that, which it very well won't be for a second line center, then you keep him. You don't want to lose that toughness that you just added to with Evander Kane. You basically be switching out Evander Kane for Dakota Joshua in the toughness department. And yeah, that's not something that I want, but I thought it was an interesting topic, as well as this list of teams that could be interested in Dakota Joshua's services. So once again, let me know in the comment section down below, which team do you think makes the most sense? And as always, if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. And sorry. Whew, that was odd. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you want to stay up to date on all your Canucks content, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. You can find and interact with us on social media. You can find us on Facebook. Just search The Line Change. You can find us on Instagram at The Line Change. You can find us on X at Line Change Man. You can find us on TikTok at the TLC Podcast. You can also find us on Blue Sky at The Line Change. And once again, feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. If you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcast. On Spotify, feel free to give us a follow, as well as rate and review us. It is greatly appreciated. But that's going to do it for me in this video. As always, let's go Canucks, and I'll see you guys in the next video.